With the latest poll results from AP Nork showing that Donald Trump's approval is like 36%, although it is 4 points better than J.D. Vance, and the Americans absolutely furious at everything that Donald Trump is doing. What is Donald Trump out there saying today? He's back on the Greenland thing. We need to take over Greenland. Greenland's going to give us Greenland. This is what he's doing today. And I think anything not to talk about the Epstein Files at this point, anything not to talk about Pam Bondi's horrible testimony. Let's play this clip.
Greenland doesn't want Europe controlling them anymore. What's your message to them?
Well, I think Greenland's going to want us, but we get along very well with Europe. We'll see how it all works out. We're negotiating right now for Greenland.
That's what we're doing, negotiating right now for Greenland. That'll change the topic and we won't talk about Epstein. Then Donald Trump says the Democrats have gone crazy. They're lunatics. Everyone's a lunatic. I mean, I don't know. Maybe put up a mirror there, Donald. Here, play this clip.
We're talking, but, we have to protect law enforcement. ICE has done a phenomenal job. Border Patrol, we have a closed border for the first time in history. We have to protect law enforcement, our police, our Border Patrol, ICE, and others in law enforcement. And I'm very much, look, I know what they want. I know what they can live with. The Democrats have gone crazy. They're radical left lunatics. That's why their cities are so unsafe. The blue cities are the cities that are unsafe. So we have to protect our law enforcement.
Which, of course, is false. There's now going to be another partial government shutdown. Just take off the masks of the ICE agents, put body cameras on them. Let's use judicial warrants. I mean, as far as I know, that's what the Democrats have asked for. And that's such a radical concept. I think the radical concept is having masked agents going around kidnapping people and killing people in this country. But call me old fashioned. Oh, and then Donald Trump attacks Zelensky. Here's what he says. Let's play it.
Ukraine negotiations, do you still demand Zelensky has to hold elections before summer?
Well, Zelensky's going to have to get moving. Russia wants to make a deal, and Zelensky's going to have to get moving. Otherwise, he's going to miss a great opportunity. He has to move.
Fact check, Russia does not want to make a deal. Russia wants all of eastern Ukraine. Russia hasn't agreed to do anything. They haven't even agreed to a ceasefire. Zelensky has agreed to actually hold elections and a referendum. If there's a 30-day ceasefire, Russia refuses to do that and kills Ukrainians every day. Then Donald Trump praises the extension of the Maduro regime in Venezuela. Delcy Rodriguez, as he throws the pro-democracy opposition under the bus. Let's play it.
Beneficiary will be the people.
On Venezuela, will you be recognizing Delcy Rodriguez's government as the official government of Venezuela?
Well, right now we have done that. We're dealing with them, and really, right now they've done a great job. Delcy's done a very, very good job, and the relationship is strong. The oil is coming out, and a lot of money is being.
Yeah, and the oil's going to a bank account that Donald Trump has in Qatar. Not in the United States, a Qatari bank account for himself. And that's an extension of the Maduro regime. And Delcy continues to say that Maduro is still the lawful president, which could likely result in Maduro having his case dismissed by claiming diplomatic immunity in federal court. And then Donald Trump's asked, well, what do you make about the airspace closure over El Paso? Right? I mean, you have the Department of Defense shooting lasers at birthday party balloons and then blaming it on Mexican cartels. And Donald Trump just says, you know what? People learn. Just a mistake. Here, play this clip.
You mean the way it happened? Yeah. People learn. People learn.
Whatever. People learn. I want to bring in Katie Porter, former congresswoman from California, running for governor of California. I was thinking about you when I watched those clips, and I wanted to bring you in. Especially, I was thinking about you during the testimony of Pam Bondi. And I was like, all right, I would just wondered if Katie Porter was there with the whiteboard, what that cross-examination would look like. And so before we get into other topics, walk me through. You have the whiteboard. You see those clips there of Donald Trump, and you saw what Pam Bondi did during her, I don't even know what that even was, regarding the Epstein Files. What would your strategy be?
Well, I mean, I think people just want to hear straight up truth, which is that's nuts. No, like Greenland not making my groceries cheaper, talking about mistakes in birthday party balloons, not bringing down my housing costs. I mean, there's so much distraction, but I think what you see in the polling is people aren't buying it. Even Republican voters and Republican leaning voters, they're starting to see through. It's wearing thin. I think about Donald Trump as a movie that's just too long. Like it was, people watched it for a little while. They were like, ha ha, this is entertaining. I think people have seen through it and I think they're fed up with it. Even those people who voted for him, I think we're seeing a real fissure even within the Republican Party here in California between sort of those who want to just worship Trump and those who are like, can we not do better?
Yeah, everybody knows you're running for governor of California. I note that when we're recording this interview, you have Governor Newsom right now from California in Munich, kind of serving as a shadow president, if you will, and kind of representing the biggest state, most populous, highest GDP, would be the fourth largest GDP in the world. Just curious what your view is, how Governor Newsom has positioned California as really the contrast to what Donald Trump is doing and has projected California basically as its own country on the world stage, whether it was in Davos, whether before that it was at one of the Brazilian climate change conferences, and now in Munich.
I support what Governor Newsom's doing here. I think people are hungry for real leadership. They're hungry for people who aren't going to spew nonsense. And so I think he's being a representative of America. He's engaging. There's a long history of California, particularly on issues of climate, but also on issues of border safety, of California engaging internationally. This was something Jerry Brown 1 did when he was president the first time. And so I think people want that leadership. They want that steady hand. They want someone who's going to be thoughtful. They're not getting it from Donald Trump. They're not getting it certainly from J.D. Vance. That's really not in any corner of his administration. And I think that's a big contrast between the Trump 1 presidency at this point and this Trump presidency. There were still a few people hanging on in his first presidency who were trying to do the work of government and to be smart and to be fact-based. And I think that has all disappeared here. And so it's created a role for states to step up. And I think people are hungry for that, not only here in California, but I think we're increasingly seeing smaller states, states that haven't necessarily taken a role in some things, working with other states and coming together. I think the next governor of California is going to have relationships with other governors. So for me, it's really exciting to watch Abigail Spanberger get elected in Virginia, Mikey Sherrill get elected in New Jersey. These were my 2018 congressional classmates. We ran to stand up to Trump in Congress. We understand now we're going to have to come together to do it as governors.
Look, I think that one of the main things when you run for governor or any position of leadership right now in the Democratic Party with the Democratic base is, look, this is a fascist takeover right now by this Trump regime. This is authoritarianism. Deliver me a world without Trump. But that alone can't just be the message. Then it has to be, and then deliver me a world with ... And you see people right now feeling psychologically tortured, living paycheck to paycheck. People are terrified with AI. People are having their paychecks, are having their healthcare ripped away from them. And so people are scared. And they also want to know what the platform is. And yes, the word affordability is yes, it's the word right now, but that has to mean something in very specific detail. So talk to us about, the specifics about, in a very crowded primary that exists right now, what specifically do you bring to the table that you think distinguishes you in terms of an agenda that actually delivers after we deliver a world without Trump?
So look, I don't think there are any Democrats out there defending Donald Trump. I think every Democrat is doing the right thing here, which is calling out all of his unconstitutional, immoral, illegal, wrong-headed behavior. And I think you absolutely need to do that in a fierce and tough and no-nonsense way. I am prepared to do that. did that when I was in Congress. I will continue to do that as governor. But look, our challenges in this country, the rise of AI and the displacement of workers, something you just mentioned, this is happening whether Donald Trump's presidency ends today or it ends a couple of years from now. And Democrats need to have a plan for it. So there's an element of what Trump is doing. He's talking about all this stuff so he doesn't have to talk about the Epstein files, right? He doesn't have to talk about his own terrible approval rating. Democrats need to make sure that we're not just talking about Trump. in order to avoid developing our own positive agenda for a better America. And so I spend a lot of time talking about affordability, not as a talking point, but as my life's work. I got my start researching families in bankruptcy, people who were pushed there by medical debt, job loss, not being able to collect child support, child care that was too expensive. I then ran a statewide foreclosure prevention program after the financial crisis for our then Attorney General Kamala Harris, sitting with families across California, helping them figure out if they could hang on to their home, and if not, how could they land as best they could to keep a roof over their head and keep their families safe. So, there's a whole Politico article that was written when I was in Congress about my raising my hand in the Democratic caucus and pointing out that groceries cost a lot. Because we were talking about gas, which is gas prices, something that politicians always focus on. This was considered so groundbreaking that a whole Politico article was written about my talking about the price of groceries. The issue I see right now in this Democratic primary here in California for governor, but across the board for Democrats, is a lot of politicians are describing the affordability problem, and people know it's expensive. I push the shopping cart. Voters push shopping carts. Voters pay the bills. I pay my family's utility bill and electric bill. They don't want us to describe the problem. They want us to fix the problem. So I think being very, very clear with voters that I understand that the biggest building blocks of their budget are things like housing and childcare. Those are the biggest ticket items people have. We can't nibble around the edges on affordability. We have to drive down the cost of housing. We have to make childcare free for every family. Doing those two things, it's not an extra $5 a week. It's not an extra, latte or an extra box of cereal. It's transformative for families economically. And we need that kind of bold economic agenda.
Where can people learn more about the campaign and any kind of final message you have to our 6 million subscribers out there?
Yeah, so our website is katieporter.com. I'm really proud of our incredible social media, amazing videos, not just of me, but of regular Democrats, regular voters, people talking about what they're scared about, what they want. And I think we all need to really be listening to what comes next. And that's at Katie Porter CA on Instagram, on Threads, on all those platforms. And so we're really trying to show not just that I'm ready to lead, but that I'm going to lead based on what people really need, what they really want. And that is a better future for themselves and their families.
Katie Porter, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.